Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight. I am, of course, Scott McMeans with Action Coach, and I am pleased to have Lia Martinez from Kleo. That is flykleo.com. And today we get to talk about her wonderful business, and it centers around pets. So I'm very excited to talk about pets today. So this will be a fun, engaged conversation. Lia has an interesting storyline, and I'm excited to have Lia introduce herself to the audience. So, Lia, do me a favor. The camera is yours. So introduce yourself.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me, Scott. I'm Lia Martinez. I founded Kleo. We are a travel company, and our goal is to make air travel easier and more accessible to people with pets. And I know that sounds unconventional, but stick with me. So, we primarily serve people like myself who have a pet that's not going to easily be accepted on a traditional commercial flight. So, think large dogs who exceed the size and weight limits, maybe breed restrictions, or just a number of other factors that make it hard to travel easily with your pets. So Clio has two areas of focus. We support people who have opted to fly private as an alternative, and we have some tools that make it a little more affordable to do so. And then we're working very hard to be able to support commercial flights as well, which is where I think most of the problems lie. But that's it in a nutshell.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about the journey and how you got here. So, and I want the audience to understand this is a passion project for you. So how did we get this passion of yours into a business setting? Because a lot of people that like to start on that entrepreneurial pathway take a passion and they turn it into something. So I want people to learn, okay, every passion can in fact become a business. So what
Yeah.
is what is your passion? How did you get into this? And if you need to talk about Bambina, please tell us about your big beautiful dog.
Yeah, Bambina. So it all started with Bambina. She is my giant breed dog. She's a Neapolitan Mastiff. She's very large. She's about 145 pounds right now. But I certainly did not, set out thinking that I was ever going to start this kind of a company. But what sparked this was I found myself in a position where I had to fly across the country very frequently, and 9 times out of 10, I had to take my dog. Um, and it was not easy. It was very difficult to get that kind of dog on a plane, let alone most places. So Bambina has been on anywhere between, I think, 6 or 8 flights now. She's flown in the cabin every single time. So it's definitely possible to fly with your large dogs. It's just not a great experience. In fact, I would dread when I had to fly with Bambina. And so I was in this position so many times. I was so frazzled. It's like, there's no way I'm driving across the country. I don't want to ship her in some other way. Like, what do I do? And I started to wonder, are there other people out there who are in this boat? Is it just me? Am I like really the only person crazy enough to want to fly with their pet? And it turns out there's a ton of people who are in the same position as me. And I started really researching this. How many people are doing this? What are they doing instead of flying commercial? What's going on here? And I kind of stumbled upon this big gap in I think the travel industry where there is this huge market of people who love their pets. They want to take them on vacation, or they're like me, they have to get from A to B, and for whatever reason, the dog has to go. What solutions do they have? And I felt like I wasn't happy with the solutions that are out there today. And so I started thinking, is there anything can I just do it myself? I have a product management background. Is there something I can do with tech in some way? And I kind of ideated on that for a long time, eventually landed on Clio.
I I love the idea of filling a market gap that nobody really knew existed until they had a chance to experience. So much like most business owners that start out, they're trying to fill a gap that nobody else knows exists. So that passion is turning into a business, but now you need to get attention on you. Now you need to get your marketing outreach to work. So walk us through a little bit about some of the things that you want to see your business do. You've been around for how many years? This is where you started. This is where you want to go based on where you are right now. So walk us through a little bit of those storylines.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kleo is definitely, we were definitely a very early stage startup. So I started working on Kleo around 2 years ago, and I just recently launched our app last summer. So it's brand new. And where I want to go now is actually very different than where I thought I wanted to go when I first put this app out. So to give you some context, the product that we have in market today is on the private flight side. We have a tool that helps connect people who are trying to fly private with their pet. We allow them to automatically match into messenger groups so that they can go out and book a shared private charter as opposed to having to reserve the whole thing, which is so expensive. I don't know how many people are able to do that. Um, the other alternative, if you're not going to rent out a whole plane, you could try and find what's called an empty leg seat, which is basically a single seat on an existing private charter that has its own route. That's definitely something people do, although it's a little more difficult to pick your own destination and times and, other factors. So it's definitely ideal if you have the flexibility to reserve your own charter with your group. Um, what people are doing today, or I guess prior to Clio, was they would have to go out and find these big groups of 10, 15, 20 people who are all going to the same place at the same time as them. What are the odds that you're going to find that? So I learned that people would spend, weeks, even months trying to put together these groups. When I saw this happening, I thought it seems like something that can be automated. And that's kind of what Clio does. We automate that long, drawn out, frustrating process. So you can just tell us where you're going and when, tell us about your pets, how many people are in your group, and then we will automatically match you into groups of other people. Then from there you can go on to book your flight. That's what we have in the market today. And after spending, 2 years looking into this and talking to customers and doing more research, that's just one of several other problems that exist within pet travel space. And now we are starting to pivot and focus our energy way more on the commercial flight side for a number of reasons. So that's where we want to take it. We're in the early research stages of that right now. So there's not a lot that I can say about what we're doing yet, but that's where we're headed.
But it definitely makes sense as far as the journey or the pathway that you have. You have a current product offering, it makes complete sense. And there's a definite, excuse me, there is a definite need for this. And the need is clearly going to extend into the commercial flight. It makes sense to do this. I'm really interested to see how this is going to play out. So does that mean Bambina could be sitting in a seat next to me on a commercial flight?
Could.
Yeah,
It could.
okay. Now, this may be a weird question, but is there any requirement for a dog to have the up-to-date vaccinations, pet medications, anything like that? Their temperament has to be in the right same, because I can only imagine two conflicting dogs, right? Could that be a
Yeah.
problem on a chartered private jet? I'm just curious, how do you screen to make sure that the
Yeah.
dogs are compatible?
That's a great question. So on the private flight side, with what we do today, the charters are independent from Clio, and many of them will have their own, processes that they will want the dogs to go through. Each one is independent. So to be very honest, it just depends on which charter you fly with. And for
Okay,
what we are wanting to do on the commercial side, you bring up a great point, and we're looking into those same processes, screenings that we would want you and your dog to go through, because not every dog is going to be a great candidate to fly. And if you're someone who's ever, if you, for example, have sent your dog to, boarding or daycare, which is even becoming more popular, they actually make your dog's interview. So your dog has to pass a test to be able to, board at that facility, and that's for very good reason. So, in my mind, the same kind of protocol would absolutely have to be in place if you're going to fly with your dog.
got you. Yeah, I can only imagine two dogs getting after it. Are
Yeah.
they are they sedated in any way through the program, or is that based on the individual protocol that a flight would have?
I don't, to my knowledge, there's no requirements that you would have to have your pet sedated. From what I hear from customers and from other people who are flying private with their dogs, your dog can walk all over the cabin. They can sit with you in the seat. So
Wow.
there's definitely more flexibility today if you are able to fly private with your dog. When I've taken Bambina on commercial flights, it's obviously not like that. She has to stay put in one spot the whole time, which is very hard.
Now, having a dog as large as Bambina, do you have to buy her a seat?
I do. I have to buy not only the
Interesting.
seat, but I have to buy the aisle or the row, so that
Oh, wow.
she can get in there without, because you don't want to disturb other passengers.
Understood. So with Clio, do you have that all is going to be automated? And that's what I wanted to make sure people understood that the service that you provide is automating the months or weeks worth of research and activity necessary from a pet owner to get this coordinated. So on the private side, it's somewhat streamlined and you have that organized now. When it comes to commercial, you're going to do the same thing. It's probably going to be simpler in some terms because there's more private or more commercial flights available, but harder because I would assume there's more hurdles to jump through in order to get a pet onto a commercial flight, just because of all the people that would be on that plane. So there's
Exactly
different
right.
idiosyncrasies involved with both types of flights, right? So
Absolutely.
you're navigating that whole opportunity, or you're navigating through that storm to get people not having to worry about it. They can just pick their dates, their travel arrangements, their destination, and go. And then you connect them to the right accommodations.
Yep, you're exactly right. And so today we are strictly a software services provider. So we are totally independent from the private airlines. And that's actually one thing. You asked me earlier, like, what do you want to do in the short to medium term? I would love to take it a step further and be able to handle like booking for those charters and,
Mhm.
get more interconnected with what they're doing. But yes, today we are strictly the services provider on the software side.
So the goal of Clio is to go from where you are today, ultimately being an enhanced version of both private and commercial automated connectivity, and be a travel agent for traveling pets. So you
Pretty
can
much,
book flights.
yes.
Okay.
And that's a
And
tall order, but yes.
well, it could in fact be a tall order, but given the way you've approached this, it seems like it'll be a much easier climb because you have a very good starting point and you're making inroads to go from stage one to stage two, and you keep going. So it's commendable that you started off where you are, or you started where you are. You started off where you started. You are where you are, and it's great to know that you have a goal and a vision for what the company can be, and those are the steps you can take
Yeah.
to move forward. I think it's awesome. So
Thanks.
what are some of the lessons that you think you've learned that you'd want to teach somebody that they should learn it before they even have to deal with that lesson later on, right? So if you can help somebody save a month, a week of headache, what lesson would you think is probably the most vital lesson that you've learned that you'd like to help teach others?
Oh yeah, and there's been a lot. So the one that sticks out to me is you kind of have to go into this with this really thick skin and just know that you are going to hear no over and over and over. I can't tell you how many times I've heard no, the rejections, whether it's trying to get funding, whether it's a partnership. And Clio is actually not the first business I've tried to start. It's the one that has made it this far. But there have been others. I've tried to build other startups in the past that did not make it anywhere near market. um, a couple of years ago, I was working on a different venture, wanted to build a virtual dressing room product before everything was virtual many years ago, and it never made it out of the prototype phase. But if I didn't fail all those other times, if all these people didn't tell me no, I can tell you with absolute 100% certainty, I would have never come this far with Clio, because now
Mhm.
I know what not to do. I know, all right, I'm gonna go this route instead of that route that didn't work out for me last time. So you kind of just you have to be really comfortable moving forward in the face of just constant. constant no's. And that sounds like such a simple, okay, but
No,
honestly,
Leah,
that's
I think what you've done, and I would simply summarize that as failing forward is a really good teacher, right?
yeah,
So it's also a really good understanding for people trying to start out. It's a mindset that successful people have. You can look at it as a failure as an opportunity to learn what not to do again, or you can look at it as an opportunity or as a barrier because I won't be able to fix it. The mindset that says, I just learned something and I learned one way not to do it moving forward. Okay, now I'm going to go try something different. If somebody has a bad mindset, Leah, they're going to look at that situation and say, well, I tried, I failed, I'm done. So
yeah,
your perseverance is probably the strongest thing that I've been able to pull so far. Hearing no, it's going to happen no matter what. Everyone hears no. It's having the
yes,
thick skin to say, okay, well, that's one person that said no. What about the next one? And before you know it, you're going to meet
right,
somebody that's going to be willing to help you. And whenever you fail forward, you're failing forward. You're learning, you're growing, you're developing different skill sets. And that to me is one of the biggest, most important things an entrepreneur can learn is being able to move forward, always moving forward.
absolutely.
I like it. That's fantastic. So what what would you say are some of the challenges that you face trying to put this all together? I mean, I get hearing no, but I want to hear some detail as far as Leah, what's a challenge that you've heard that somebody can resonate in the audience? And yep, I've heard that before, or I faced that. Oh wow, that's how Leah faced it and beat it. Or they can teach you. I don't know. Let's hear
Yeah,
some of the biggest challenges that you faced.
yeah, and another big one is so there's no plan that's set in stone. There's no like playbook that someone else is going to give you for your business, right? So a challenge, and I think also the skill is that you kind of have to become very comfortable with ambiguity. You have to be very comfortable setting direction when there is none. You have to know how to, test your ideas, and if they fail, get the data. If they don't, that's great. Keep going. You have to deploy all these strategies, and maybe you have a mentor, and that's great. That's actually something I'm trying to do as well, is get a mentor to help me figure this stuff out. You do really have to be comfortable, kind of with no plan. You have to make the plan, and that for me was a big challenge because it's uncomfortable. And you're taking a lot of risk, and you don't always know if what you're doing is going to work out, or is this feature that I just spent my time and energy on, it's not performing like I thought it would. What do I do now? So I think it's a problem, but it's also a skill, if that makes sense. You got to be okay with uncertainty.
The idea that being comfortable with ambiguity and deploying a strategy. I think you said creating a plan out of thin air, or creating a
Yeah,
plan out of your idea. It's not an easy thing to do. And what's interesting is, okay, when you go to get funding or you go to a bank and you're trying, okay, this is what I want to do, and they look
yeah,
at you like, one, which one of the five heads should I talk to? Because that's an insane idea, right?
yeah,
Who would ever need that? And then you show them the market data, like, okay, well, maybe we could do something with that. And before you know it, all right, your idea is getting formulated into a plan, but how do you actually execute that plan? That's a really hard thing to do. So again, kudos to you for keeping this thing going and driving it. And again, I think a lot of it comes from you had lessons learned, and that's the biggest thing that entrepreneurs face is how many times are you going to get knocked down? That's not what you need to concern yourself with. It's concerning yourself with, all right, I got knocked down 9 times, but I got up 9 times
yep,
and I kept going. And this is what I'm driving towards, and this is what I'm going to make a difference with. So keep going. Keep going.
absolutely.
So you're working through that challenge now, that you have a creative idea, you're trying to build your plan. Is that the biggest challenge you have right now, is putting your plan to paper, would you say?
The big, no, I would that is a challenge, but if I'm being honest, the biggest challenge for me is that Clio is still we're still so early. And to give you some background, as far as the business formation, I am the sole business owner, and then I have a number of contractors who support me for app development and design. And then also on the commercial side, I have consultants who are very experienced in aviation, FAA regulations, which is not a background that I personally have. So that's the team that we have, but we're still self-funded, which means that I can't pursue Clio as fast as I want to. I have to move very, very slow until I'm ready to go out and raise that funding
Mhm.
round, which we're just not ready for right now. But I'm hoping we will be soon. So in the interim, it's like I can only do what I can do. I
Sure.
have a laundry list of things that I would love to build out tomorrow for the app that we have, or research that I really want to start working on right now on the commercial side, but I have to wait until I'm in a better position. And that's frustrating. It's not fun. That's where we are, hoping that we're going to be somewhere else very soon. But I think that's a challenge that other founders have faced that I've talked to. I think there's this ramp up period where you have your business, but you also still have to support yourself somewhere else. So I still do work in product management in addition to Clio. And then we're kind of trying to find that jump off point where you can finally say, all right, we got the fundraising we needed, we're ready, we can really scale up our team, let's do it. So trying to get there.
I think you're going to get there a lot sooner than you think. There's a lot of opportunity for you, just to take this idea and this passion, which I really love. The passion of what you're trying to do comes across. And what I'm going to do is underneath in the description, there'll be a way to connect with you via LinkedIn. People can connect there, and then I'll put your website on there so people can learn as much as they can about flycleo.com and just understand what you're trying to do and accomplish. And I'm assuming of the thousands of people that get a chance to watch this channel, there's got to be one or two big pet owners that are interested to see what they can do
Yeah,
with this. So,
that would
and
be
if
great.
anything, I think there's an opportunity for you to really stretch yourself into a different arena, whether it's market or investors. Let's get people looking at Clio as an opportunity. I welcome that for it because this is something that, believe it or not, a lot of people need. And who would have
Right?
thought,
Yeah.
right? Who would have thought?
I didn't never thought I'd be here, but
So this has been a great conversation. I picked up a lot, Leah. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and letting people know that, yeah, it wasn't easy. I failed a couple of times, but here I am standing
yeah.
strong and doing what I need to. I will ask you one final question. And I think it's interesting because, um, normally falls into one of three categories, the way people answer it. So
Okay.
if you were to go back and sit on a park bench next to the 18-year-old Lia Martinez, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Well, well, I would tell myself that you don't have to know everything to start. I could have started a long time ago if I had a little more confidence, or if I guess, you don't know until you know, but I thought
Mhm.
that I had to have everything figured out before I could start a business, and that is couldn't be farther from the truth. So that's what I would say.
Okay. And when we first talked, I think I told you there's one of three categories that everybody always falls into, and you hit two of them. So it's the confidence to do what you need to do, follow your passion, and then it's perfectly fine not to know everything because you'll never know everything. Surround
Yeah.
yourself with good people, surround yourself with a great idea, and build it as fast and as strong as you can, and it'll literally take care of you for the rest of your life. So I appreciate that. This has
Thank
been
you very
greatly.
much.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being on the show. And everybody, highly recommend if you can connect with Leah, learn about Clio. And if you have a big pet, by all means, perfect service. Thanks so much. We'll see everybody on the next episode of the Business Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.